It lasted only 4 weeks. At the end of July of that year, the Commission for the National Monument Preservation made a decision that the whole pyramid be claimed the nationally protected monument. Not because of the pyramid, but because of a tiny fortress which used to be on the very top during the medieval time, which was long forgotten. So they used that as the excuse. And then after that, we were not able to do any work on the pyramid of the sun. So what we did, even if the law says this is a national monument, you can submit a new project, which we did, together with the archaeological faculty of the Cairo University, the biggest one on the planet. Any country would be happy to have Egyptologists and archaeologists from Cairo University, any normal country. Well, the Federal Commission for the National Monuments rejected our projects 3 times with no explanation. And the Minister for Culture, in 2 terms for 8 years, was saying publicly, as long as I'm minister, they will not get the permission to dig over there. So what we have, those years, 2006, 7, 8, we had a little organization consisted of ministers, writers, journalists, some politicians from cultural establishment, like an organized group doing everything to start the project. So they would distribute different tasks. They would say, you make sure they don't get the permit, you make sure they don't get the funding, you make sure that they go on media, you make sure that they don't go to UNESCO. And it was all against one little non-profit foundation. The journalists were writing that this guy Osmanagic, he got rich by connecting with the mafia in Yeltsin's Russia in the 1990s. Interesting thing is that of all countries that I visited, I never went to Russia until a few years back, but they were doing everything to discredit you. So once they start talking against you, people forget what was the source of the news. And that's how it functions. Wikipedia and most of other media outlets. Again, what we did, we sued the government. After 5 years being in the drawer, in November of last year, we got the judgment from the court in Sarajevo in our favor. And that Ministry for Culture and Commission for the National Monument Preservation, he said that what they did, they made illegal decision not allowing us to work on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. For the first time in this little country, my non-profit won against the government. So we invited the people again to come, to work with us. And for the first time, we had archaeologists from 7 European countries, from Italy, from France, from Spain, from Hungary, from UK, from Croatia, and from Bosnia. They were not afraid of the sanctions of their archaeological associations. Those archaeologists, young people mostly, were showing me the letters from their university professors in which they threatened them not to go to Bosnia. But once they did, they got new letters saying, you will not be able to find a job in Milan or in Italy, in France, and so on. But they told me, this project is globally important, much more than our individual destinies. So we were investigating other pyramids also, the Pyramid of the Moon, finding a beautiful terraces. But not only the mainstream scientists were attacking us, those who claim to be alternative, open-minded. Robert Schoch invited himself to our site at the very beginning of the project. Spent 1 week, and since then he's been saying there is nothing there, it's all natural, natural formation. This guy is there to make money. He is there to get elected in the politics. He is running the biggest hoax. Well, this thing about the money, I don't promote it, but I spent over $250,000 so far. So where is that money? I got my business in Houston. And about getting election in politics, sure, we have election in Bosnia every 2 years. But I don't care about politics. You can help your country in so many other ways. Now, the Sun Pyramid is completely covered in this heavy-duty concrete. This is our archaeological trench number 4C. We can see the rows of blocks, the first row, the second row, the third row, the fourth row, 4 rows of blocks. This is our archaeological trench number 4A. These blocks, they are reaching 32 tons or 70,000 pounds. Our archaeological trench number 5. Number 10. Number 12. Concrete everywhere. Exceptionally hard. There has to be a reason for that. And I will talk about it. The Pyramid of the Moon. 46 archaeological trenches. From the bottom to the top, west, south, east. Everywhere we're digging, we are finding terraces, pavements, rectangular structures, vertical walls, more pavements, steps, shaped blocks and plates, more walls. Under the layers of soil is a huge pyramidal structure, with the sides perfectly oriented to the cardinal points. The top of the Moon Pyramid, we made a hole. We found the rows of blocks. The first row, layers of clay. The second row, layers of clay. The third row. The ancients were smart. They were using natural materials, but they knew the properties of them. For example, clay is excellent binder. Clay is waterproof. Clay is thermal insulation. And then clay gives the flexibility to the structures. In the case of earthquakes, the structure does not collapse. It breathes. Here we are at the top of the Moon Pyramid. Layers of soil, first terrace, second terrace, the third terrace. The bottom of the western slope, we have larger plates here. Clay as a construction material. Medium size, clay, small size. When we analyzed, we can find the Fibonacci formula applied here. Another interesting structure is what we called tumulus in Vratnica. If you have conically shaped artificial hill, in archaeology it is called a tumulus or tumuli. The biggest one is Silbury Hill in southern England. What we have here is a tumulus, artificial hill, which is made of these huge blocks, clay, concrete blocks, clay, sandstone blocks, clay, all the way to the top. Lately, a lot of sensitive people are feeling a very powerful source of energy on the very top. Now, how old are Bosnian pyramids? They are covered by soil. If we can figure out the age of the soil, then we can give the minimum age of the pyramid. The scientific discipline that investigates the origin and age of soil is called pedology. Now, there is an Institute for Pedology in Bosnia, so Professor Resulovic, who established the institute, he has done the sample testing and concluded that the age of the soil is between 12 and 15,000 years. So if the age of soil is over 12,000 years, it means that the pyramid is older than that. The second important dating we've done on the Moon Pyramid. We've noticed that those terraces, they consist of 2-layer blocks, top and base. Top and base. Institute for Materials from Zenica in Bosnia concluded that the top layer is glued to the base. So if it is glued, obviously the binding material was used. And there is a possibility that organic material can be found in the binding material. which can give us a date when they were mixing the whole thing. So from this particular terrace, we remove the top layer, and in the binder we found this brownish material. It really looked like an organic material. So we packed it, shipped it to the Institute for Physics at the Silesian University of Technology in Poland, Gliwice, and they gave us a date. Before Christ, 10,350 years, plus minus 50 years, or 12,350 years before present. And this very summer, in June, our volunteers, or our first shift, or our International Summer Camp for Volunteers, were extended one of the trenches for about 4 feet to the right. And under the layers of soil, and on the very top of the concrete blocks, we found this fossilized organic material. It's a leaf. So if you have organic material under the soil, on the top of the concrete blocks, it can give you another minimum age of the structure. We analyzed it at the radiocarbon lab in Kiev, Ukraine, and we got this date. 24,800 years, plus minus 200 years. So we are going back 25,000 years. Is it the age of the pyramid? Well, we don't know yet. It seems that according to this hard scientific data, it is over 25,000 years. In order to get the final conclusion, of course, we would need to get another 5, 10 radiocarbon datings. But it takes us very long, very deep in the time. How is it possible that the Bosnian pyramids are older than Egyptian ones? You know, in Bosnia we tend to build everything without a permit. So while we were building ours, Egyptians were waiting for the construction permits. Everything we touch in the case of Bosnian pyramid project forever changes our view of the ancient history. These are the first pyramids in Europe. So far we thought that they were never built in Europe. Secondly, they are the largest, the biggest on the planet. Number 3, the side orientation is the most precise on the planet. Number 4, the concrete blocks, the construction material is of the best quality on the planet. And now, the oldest pyramids on the planet. What was happening before the end of the last ice age, 12,000 plus years ago? According to the historians and archaeologists, nothing. The era of the caveman. But they are wrong. It seems that they don't read about the sensational archaeological discovery in the last 15 years. On the bottom of the Pacific floor, between the islands of Yonaguni in Japan, Taiwan, and the mainland China, 13 underwater cities have been discovered at the depths of 100 to 250 feet. Obvious megalithic structures, half-radius terraces. According to the mainstream Japanese scientists, this is a natural formation. They were joined by American and German scientists and by Robert Schoch. What is their problem? Well, if, and they obviously are, work of the intelligent hands, people would ask questions. When they were built, who was able to move megalithic stones long time ago? Well, the last time when the Pacific Ocean rose for 250 feet was 12,500 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, when a huge quantities of ice melted and the water level of world seas and oceans